What's going on, guys? Alex here with TFL, and that right there behind me is the 2020 Polaris Slingshot R. Now, you might remember last year I did a review of the 2019 model. I actually compared it against my motorcycle and tried to figure out if it was more car or more bike. This year it's going to be a little bit different. There's a whole new powertrain in the Slingshot for 2020, so we're going to take it out on the road, see how it performs, and see if it's a worthy upgrade. Most of you guys know what the Polaris Slingshot is already and what makes it unique because you're crazy car fanatics. But just in case you haven't seen one of these before, this is the reason it's so cool. Well, it's an open air experience, which is cool, but this is the main reason why it's so cool. It's got this huge rear tire on it, and there's only one of them. It's a three-wheeled vehicle, belt driven, and from behind, this just looks insane. You wonder what it is, and that's what's cool about it. It's just something crazy that you don't see anything else like it on the road. Last year, and ever since the Slingshot came out in 2014, we always saw a 2.3 liter Ecotec engine from General Motors under the hood. This year, it's all new. So we have a 2 liter 4-cylinder engine directly from Polaris. All models of the Slingshot for 2020 will get this new engine, but this is the R trim, so this has a stage 1 tune, which gives you a little bump in power. This one makes 203 horsepower and 144 pound-feet of torque, but if you get the lower end trims, you're gonna get the same motor making 173 horsepower and 120 pound-feet of torque. To go along with the new engine, there's also a brand new transmission in the Slingshot for 2020. So previously, the only thing you could get was a 5-speed manual. Now you have what they're calling an auto drive transmission, which is basically that same 5-speed manual from last year, but they automated it and made it drive like an automatic. It's really simple. There's 3 buttons, reverse, neutral, and drive. You just press a button, it puts you into gear, and then you're ready to go down the road. Now, I said reverse, neutral, and drive. There's no park selector up top, and the way you put this in park is kind of like driving a stick shift car. You take it out of gear and go into neutral, and pull up on the e-brake, and you're good to get out. I'll come back to this auto drive transmission a little bit later in the review, but those are the big changes for 2020. You have a brand new engine and a brand new transmission, and there's some other details here and there, like you have some new interior lighting, a new steering wheel, but I did a full in-depth video on every single change for the 2020 Slingshot. That's over on TFLnow, so if you're interested in every detail, go over there. But for now, let's get it on the road and see how much quicker it is. All right, so 0 to 60 test here in the Slingshot. I've got traction control on. I'm just gonna mash it and see what happens. 3, 2, 1. Shifted. And there we are, 7.02. So in the last generation Slingshot with the older engine, Paul, our race car driver, took it on the track and he did a 0 to 60 test, and he was able to get it 0 to 60 in 6.97 seconds. Polaris says that this new engine should be able to get you 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds. Granted, we're a mile above sea level, so our times will be slower up here. Styling-wise, the Slingshot is just crazy, and they did a few minor updates for 2020 on the front end. Like I said, I have a video going into all those changes in greater detail if you want to check them out. But everyone you talk to, everyone you drive by, is in agreement that this is not a Polaris Slingshot. This is a Batmobile. I drove it home for a weekend. I've lived in my house for over a year at this point. And when I brought it home, I met probably 3 or 4 new neighbors within the first hour I had it sitting in my driveway. Everyone wants to talk about it. Everyone thinks it's super cool. And honestly, it's the best chick magnet on the road. Everyone thinks that a motorcycle is the best chick magnet, but I've owned plenty of motorcycles. The only people you talk to are bearded dudes at gas stations. With the Slingshot, I have had so many blondes pull up next to me and they all want to talk to you, but they don't know what to call it. They're like, nice car or nice thing. They have no idea what it is. Now, this isn't a utility vehicle by any means, but it is nice that there is some storage. So there's a little lever underneath the seat, and then you do get keyless entry and start for 2020, but they do give you physical keys to get into your storage compartments. So open that up. I've got a backpack in here. Good little spot just to throw some extra odds and ends, maybe a sweatshirt or a helmet if you're running into a store. So I'm glad it has some storage there. And it's actually pretty decently sized, nothing to complain about there. There's also a glove box in front of the passenger. It also locks, so that'd be a good place to throw your registration cards and insurance, but you also have some extra room in there for gloves maybe, if you wanted to put gloves in your glove box. First thing I always do when I get in the Slingshot is take the wallet out, and it goes there. You don't want to lose it down there. So what's it like to drive the Slingshot? Let me get it out of the way immediately. I really do think the Slingshot is an absolute blast on the road. And a lot of people wonder whether it's more like a car or more like a motorcycle. In fact, that's one of the questions Tommy had for me. Well, before I ever drove one of these, I kind of looked down on it, like I think most motorcyclists do. It doesn't feel like a motorcycle, and it doesn't feel like a convertible when you're driving it, and that's honestly why it's so fun to drive. You just feel like you're driving something that the roads weren't designed to accept, and that kind of makes me giggle. I really feel like I can relax in this a bit more than I do when riding a motorcycle, and it's honestly way more fun to bring passengers along in the Slingshot than it is on a bike. You can actually sit together, enjoy the open air, enjoy the music, and talk, instead of trying to coach a passenger on where their weight should be mid-turn on a bike, and usually that just freaks them out to the point where they don't even want to be a passenger anymore. It's way more fun to enjoy passengers with a Slingshot than a motorcycle, and don't even try to compare it to a car. It's not a car, and I know that because bugs constantly smack me in the face at 60 miles per hour if I ever forget my helmet in this thing. Build quality is a little bit questionable, which doesn't surprise me a whole lot with a power sport product like this. They're all a little bit questionable, but what I'm talking about is things like the shifter, just you can pick it up and just take it out of its place. The little Polaris badge fell off of the glove box before this was even delivered to us, and when you open the glove box, it's a little bit of a parts bin. There's some extra screws and extra fuses hanging out in there. This machine doesn't have a ton of miles on it, but just worth putting it out there that it's not built like a luxury car. It's built like a power sports product, and you can feel that sitting inside. One of the new changes for 2020 is the steering wheel, and now you get a bunch of buttons on it. I'm not going to go into what they all do. I'm sure you can figure it out just by looking at it. But the one I want to talk about is this red button right here. You now have two different drive modes on the Slingshot. You have comfort mode, and then if you hit it once, this little logo will come up right there. That means you're in Slingshot mode, which is kind of like their sport mode. Let's go on the road and I'll talk to you about the modes. I'm going to be completely honest, I did not notice a major difference between the comfort mode and Slingshot mode. Slingshot mode felt like it held the gears a tad longer, but it was so hard to tell that I just left it in Slingshot mode the whole time I was driving. As far as the engine goes, I don't mind the new engine. It sounds pretty cool, I don't feel like it's underpowered, and I don't feel like I'm wishing for more. It's pretty good. Reliability might be questionable when going from something like a high-volume GM Ecotec engine to this brand new Polaris engine, but we'll just have to wait and see. I do like the new engine though. I really applaud Polaris for trying to make the Slingshot more approachable to all drivers, but honestly, it's a bad transmission and it needs to be made better for me to really enjoy this vehicle with the auto drive. In the center here, you have a ride command screen. The software is a little bit improved from last year. The angle of the screen's also a little bit improved. I like this setup. It gives you some good information here. The one thing I really like about this screen is that it gives you an estimated fuel remaining, 161 miles remaining. That wasn't a feature on last year's Slingshot, so it left you guessing how much fuel you had left. I really like that it has the gauge this year, although I will say it goes down really quickly. I left my house one morning with about 90 miles remaining, and by the time I made it to the gas station 2 miles down the street, it was screaming at me to get fuel. So it does drain pretty quickly, but at least it gives you some sort of fuel indication. Another thing I really like about having this screen here is music. The sound system in this thing is made by Rockford Fosgate. and it bumps. It's a really good sound system. Even with earplugs in and a helmet on, I can hear it clearly, which means the people behind me and next to me at the lights really can hear it clearly. But I like the sound system, but besides the Bluetooth connectivity and being able to see how much fuel I have left, the rest of the features in the screen are just kind of extra, at least for me. In a vehicle like this, I want it to be simple. I just want to have fun driving it, and I don't really care about all the tech features that come along with it. The Slingshot is not a sports car, it's not a race machine, not something I would want to take to the track. It's not practical, you don't have a trunk, you'll get soaking wet in the rain, you might not be able to drive it year round, but it's a ton of fun. I actually enjoyed my second demo period with the Slingshot more than I did last year, which was the first time I drove one. It's growing on me, and I honestly really like the vehicle. Would I replace my motorcycle with it? Definitely not, but it's a blast to drive, and I definitely would spend my own money to rent one of these on vacation to have fun for a day. I think that's kind of the perfect use for one of these vehicles. And if you were considering one of these already, I think the new changes they made for 2020 are worthwhile and might be a reason to pull the trigger, especially if you have family that doesn't want to drive stick. Yes, the new transmission's slow, but I really don't care. I'm not trying to go 100 miles per hour in my Slingshot. I'm just trying to enjoy the open air. So if you want a Slingshot, what's it going to cost you? Well, the base model for 2020 is the SL, which goes for $26,499. This is the R trim, which is kind of the middle of the road option. That's $32,699. And there's also a top of the line Grand Touring LE model. The 5-speed manual is only available in the mid-tier R model. So if you want that, you gotta get the R, but it will save you $1,700. Last year, there was also an S model, which was the entry-level one. That one was $20,999. Like I said, the SL is the base for 2020. So you gotta pay quite a bit more if you wanna get into one of the entry-level Slingshots. I think it's a really fun vehicle. It's definitely a blast to drive. You have a lot of fun in it, and honestly, my favorite part about driving this around was taking people in it that don't get to experience open air on the road all the time. I ride a motorcycle multiple times a week. I know that feeling, but my friends, my girlfriend, everyone I put in this thing, they've never had that experience before, and it was a real blast getting to drive them around like that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to go back to TFL Car, TFL Off-Road, and TFLTruck.com for the latest and greatest in automotive news and reviews.